Welcome to the OpEdia podcast, a podcast where I share um, my personal opinion on news articles or news stories that have happened in the recent past, either it is good or bad or ugly or whatever it is. And this is just a platform where I share my own take, my own view, my own opinion on the news articles or the news stories that really affect the young generation. Now, the young generation that I'm talking about is, of course, the millennials, the Generation Z, and Generation Alpha. So, without any further ado, just want to thank everybody who have been a part of this journey from the previous episode, which was my first time ever doing it. And I'm sure that as we continue along this journey, it's going to grow bigger and it's going to be uh, more popular, especially in Africa, because my focus is to be the best in podcast network content. I don't know how many in Africa have that type of podcast networking company, but I'm going to be the best, and that's my dream. So if you're watching me right now, if you're listening me right now, thank you for staying tuned. Never leaving me by alone, making sure that you're always accompanying me, even though uh, you are staying at different places around the world. Just want to thank you for being with me, for being a part of the journey, and I hope that as I continue and to give you more content, I'm doing this for you. It's not just me alone. I'm doing it for you to make sure that you are informed, you are encouraged, you are enlightened, you are empowered, and at the same time you are you know being empowered, for lack of a better word. Yeah. So without any other ado, today my topic of this episode will be the Zoomer generation. Now, if you're wondering what the Zoomer generation is basically nicknamed the Generation Z, or in some countries they say the Gen Zers. You know. So today I looked at a news article written by Tarwa Bulifi. So as a disclaimer, this is not my article. It's written by that person's name called Tarwa Bulifi, who wrote it last year, in the summer of last year, which was posted on the New African magazine. So I just want to give that title, the Zoomer generation. And if you're wondering where the word Zoomer came from, I'm sure most of you know of the app called Zoom, is video chatting app, uh, where it rivals with Skype and Microsoft Teams, Google Meets and so forth, and that's where the word Zoom comes in. And I'm sure most of you know that Zoom was created in the 2010s, so that video conferencing, personal chatting is made easier through that app, which you can do it either on mobile or through your tablets or through your laptops or even through desktop computers. Excuse me. So yeah, that will be the topic for the podcast, the Zoomer generation, and it's going to be taken from an article written by Tarwa Bulifi from Tunisia, rather, who wrote it for the New African magazine. So I'll just read it as it is, and then we shall discuss what it's all about. And according to what the person you know wrote, says that Generation Z, also called Gen Z or Zoomers, refers to people born between 1997 and 2015. Yeah, that's how I see it. According to the Pew Research Center, for them they say it's between 1997 and 2012. So if you look at that, that's like a 15-year gap. That's considered a generation, according to the Pew Research Center. Yeah, and furthermore it says, while the personality traits and trends of Gen Z are still works in progress, some of their characteristics are already becoming clear. Now, among Western countries with large non-white populations, this cohort according to the Pew Research Center, is projected to become majority non-white in the US by 2026. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that sooner or later, America will be dominated by the non-whites. Now, non-whites could be black, could be Asian, could be Latino, could be Arabic, and so forth. So long as they are non-white, then they are going to dominate the population in the United States. So that was the research report put there according to Tarwa. And then furthermore, it says in some US states, it seems that is already the case. So if you look at states like Georgia, if you look at the southern states where slavery dominated the country several centuries back, and really worrisome, really troubling. I even don't want to go into details because I'm sure the non-whites don't want to really talk much about it, because it reminds them of their ancestors, of what they went through to be able to build the United States, will be able to pave way for generations that are coming after them. So yeah, but in some states, mostly in the south of the US, I think that one is already happening, even if you go and do your own research at your own time. Furthermore, the article says members of Gen Z, by and large, tend to be more tolerant than those from previous generations. That caused some bit of scratching or head on the chin or on the head. Since they have experienced revolutionary social changes like gay legislation in many countries. Now that reminds me of a post I saw on Instagram yesterday that Florida have passed a bill where they say, to paraphrase, that they exclude discussions of LGBTQ in schools in the whole of Florida. That was yesterday when I was perusing through my Instagram page, and I don't know if that is going to really buy in into most of the people, but as you all know, LGBTQ is a community that is mostly undervalued in one way or the other, and that is another topic for another day. But I'm just bringing you latest on something relating to gay legislation. And by the way, another thing just came in right now. Even in college sports in the United States, there's the legislation to do the LGBTQ participation in sports that is varying in conversation size. Some saying they're going to pass it, some saying that one is non-negotiable, that one is not to be discussed, like we don't want to talk about it because of reasons of their own choice. Yeah, so it's debatable, and I'm sure for the Zoomers, that is something that they want to advocate for, which I have not put my own personal opinion, or should I say choice, for that matter. So I'll just go ahead and read the article by Galway, where it continues saying that many of them have been raised within diverse family structures. So the diverse family structures could be either extended, nuclear, or even a combination of the two. Who knows? Where gender roles aren't reinforced, and there is open discussion about issues that were considered taboo before, like sexual orientation. Now, this will cause a bit of worry if you are either listening or you're watching me and you are thinking, gender roles aren't reinforced. Open discussion on things which are considered taboo, like sexual orientation. Don't you think that causes a bit of worry, especially for those who are not used to being around people who have a different sexual orientation apart from male and female? Let's be honest, I'm sure most of you who are listening or watching me will be uncomfortable talking about it, but that's a worrying trend if gender roles aren't reinforced in the era of Gen Z. That's worrying. What will happen to the families who they are under, or even the families that they want to create in the future? Will that mean that you not have a straight person or a heterosexual person? from parent to child and grandchild. That's something worrying, and I'm sure that will cause debate even as you share this with your loved ones. Yeah. Of course, the article continues saying that while millennials are considered in quotes digital pioneers, as you all know, the millennials are people like me, people who are born between 1981 to 1996, according to the Pew Research Center. So I'm part of that generation, and I'm sure most of you know why are we called digital pioneers, according to that article. Of course, the WWW, or the World Wide Web, was born in 1992, by Tim Berners-Lee, the British computer scientist. Even though the internet was born in the 70s, which was the generation before the millennials, but the www came in the 90s. And if you're a person born in the 90s and you're watching me or you're listening to me, people like me should be proud that we are the digital pioneers. So yeah. And the sentence further continues, says that Gen Z are considered the first in quotes digital natives. Now what does that mean? It means that they are the first ones to carry the digital revolution to the 21st century, because like I said earlier on in the episode, the Gen Z are people born between 1997 and 2015, or according to Pew Research Center, 1997 to 2012. So those are the ones who carried their digital revolution from the 90s, carrying it to the 21st century, and a lot has happened ever since. So yeah, that's basically what it's talking about. And then furthermore, it says the internet and social media have enabled them to always have access to information in a timely manner. I mean, look at that. Within seconds, within a snap, within the blink, you have the information on your fingertips. Access to information is easier. Unlike the previous generations that do struggle hard and takes longer time to get access to information in whatever way that they could get. Either it is the millennials, either it is the baby boomers, or even the silent generation. I mean, they struggled. And if the further you go back the generations, the harder the struggle, or the harder it gets to really receive access, to receive information on whatever thing that you're searching. So yeah, and continue saying, which gives them political awareness at a relatively young age. Now look at America. The Gen Z are more politically aware than any other generation. Even if you look at the US election that happened in 2020, where Trump was dethroned by Joe Biden. I'm sure if you look at the votes, there are many young people that went to vote, and I'm sure they are more aware of the topics, or the issues that concerned America, and I'm sure that contributed a lot to the victory of Joe Biden. So I think that somehow played a role in the win for the White House for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, not forgetting her, of course, being the first black vice president, and even the first woman vice president of that kind. Yeah, let me continue reading the article. Yeah, it says, unlike previous generations, this one tends to be more left-leaning and is seen as perhaps the most progressive. So these are the people who are more aggressive. When they want something, they really want to push ahead. I'm not much of a political analyst, but I'm just going to give my own simple way of meaning of those terms. Progressive meaning people who are more advocate based for something that they are fighting for, and I'm sure it's going to continue that way moving forward. Look at Greta Thunberg of environment. She's leading that front very well, and it has not taken a long time to be where she is right now. So I think that's where that generation is going. Yeah. So I continue reading, saying that this generation is involved in advocating for issues like gender equality, that one I agree. Anti-racism, that one I agree. If you look at the Black Lives Matter, if you look at the protests after the death of George Floyd, even the one after the death of Ahmad Abri, and even the shooting of Jacob Blake, more young people have been, advocating for these issues to be addressed. Yeah, you look at LGBTQ rights. Not long ago, I was talking about that being excluded from being discussed in schools in Florida, or even allowing participation in college sports. So, and then look at climate change action, etc. Greta Thunberg leading that front. Yeah. Now, the article continues to say that they also believe that governments should work to ensure a free and equal world. Now, I don't know when that will happen. I don't know how many generations will have to wait for that to happen. Imagine a free and equal world, unless you are in the Garden of Eden, but we are not in the Garden of Eden. We are in, 200 plus nations, and yeah, a lot of things are happening, either positive or negative. So maybe unless Jesus Christ comes, who knows? Okay, yeah. The article continues says that furthermore, since Zoomers grew up during major crises like the financial crisis of 2007, and I'm just adding one for myself, and COVID-19 pandemic, and witnessed how their families struggled with financial hardships, they became aware of the importance of money security. That is key. That is key, especially if you want to be financially independent. You need to secure your money. That's why this generation values savings, smart investment, and stable jobs. That's according to Tarwa. You know, maybe for her, she's saying that yeah, we are the best generation in terms of money security, but who am I to judge? Who knows? In the same way, they tend to be wiser purchasers. I think that one I have to scratch a little bit. Since they can get well informed about the products they want to buy and read recommendations from other customers, especially celebrities, I think they're leading the front. That generation is leading, and that one I agree with Tara on this one. However, despite all these positive aspects, of course, there has to be a positive and a negative. Gen Z have not escaped from some problems. The biggest challenge for this young generation is their mental health. Remember you remember in the previous episode when I was talking about suicides? That's one of them. Which suicides is basically a mental issue to do with the mental health. And remember me discussing it in the previous episode. Yeah, so if you watch that previous episode on YouTube or on social media or on every other platform that I've put on those links, then I think you'll be more aware of what I'm talking about right now. Affected mostly by the double-edged swords of the internet and social media. You see, I'm not going far. So this is like a part 2 from where I started in the previous episode. So mental health is one challenge. 2, let me continue reading. It may be a cliche, but Gen Z is referred to as, in quotes, the loneliest generation. I think that one I can agree. If you look at the financial crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, I think I can agree. And then with the man-made disasters, like 9/11 and so forth, I can't agree any further. Since they spend so much time online and less time interacting in person with their families and friends. Man, I didn't see that. Did you hear that? Did you see that? Spending so much time online, less time interacting in person. I think if your parent is a millennial or a baby boomer, they'll be putting their finger on their chin and be like, I think I need to have a discussion with my kids or with my grandkids, because it's really going to affect them as a family. Yeah. Then the article continues to say, in addition, young people on social media tend to share only positive aspects about their lives. You see, why do you like talking about positive things online? How come when bad things happen to you, you don't post them? Is it that you're going to lose followers? Are you scared of losing followers? I'm not bashing anybody who's listening or watching me, but that's something, food for thought. I mean, you have to be human. Being human means you have to share about the positive and the negative. And when you post both sides of your life, then that is where your inner circle is tested. That is where your followership is tested. Because if you post the negative side, that is where now people will abandon you. That is where rejection comes in. And that is where your true circle will be known. As the famous quote says, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. So keep that in mind. Such as their accomplishments and romantic liaisons, reflecting only the bright side of things. I mean, come on. You cannot pretend that everything is okay, that you are all born to be successful, yet you all know very well being successful took a lot of hurdles and obstacles. So why don't you show people the hurdles and the obstacles that you're going through, so that they can learn from them and be able to even be better than what you had gone through previously? So I find it unfair. I think it reminds me of a phrase that I always tell myself, that these kind of people are living fake lives. They're not human, they're not real, they're not true. Maybe they are just robotic, no emotion, no nothing. Yeah. Let's move ahead. This excessive showing off pushes young people to compare their lives with others, which makes them feel endlessly unsatisfied about what they have. You see, outside of you, you may feel satisfied, but inside of you, endlessly unsatisfied. Endlessly unsatisfied. They may not show it to you on social media, but through their silence and the deep hiatus from social media, then that speaks volumes. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. Use it as a food for thought. Share it with others, and you never know, it could save somebody something. Gen Z are also confronted with much stress about problems of the modern world that never seem to end. Climate change, terrorism, racism, etc. in brackets. Being consistently subjected to this reality, they tend to internalize all the stress from the news and even the apparent stress that they can feel. So they allow those things to creep into them. I mean, I can't judge them. Who am I to judge? Maybe that's how they're being taught, or maybe that's how they feel at that particular moment. The Gen Z are way different to the millennials, the baby boomers, the silent generation. So I can't really blame the Gen Z. The article further says that, on the other hand, their good grasp of global issues has motivated them to speak out against injustice, environmental issues, and advocate for a better world in which they would want to live. A lot add to what that article is being put there, like I was mentioning earlier on in this episode. While we don't know how much about this generation yet, of course, if you started back from 2012, right now it's like 9 years, because we are already in a decade, so that's like 10 years. So you are yet to learn more about Gen Z, including myself, who is a millennial. I'm yet to learn more about the Gen Z. Since they are still young, from what we know till now, it has all the features of producing bold leaders and change makers. But the question is, which country is ready to put majority young people in parliament or in the cabinet or in organizations of whatever industry? Especially in Africa. Who is willing to do that? Will citizens be willing to vote majority young people, be able to lead the country or to lead organizations, be able to make a difference? We are yet to see that being evident. This is in stark contrast to the negative stereotypes previous generations often level at them, like being constantly online, careless, and apathetic. I see. Okay. Given the colonial history of their countries, African Gen Z members have a cosmopolitan identity, since they are more open to many cultures, which wasn't the case for their parents and grandparents. Like I said, Gen Z are more open than the previous generations. In Africa, Gen Z activists like Angeline Makore of Nigeria, Zuleika Patel of South Africa, Kelvin Doe of Sierra Leone, and Imran Christian of South Africa are great champions for their beautiful continent, not content, are great champions for their beautiful continent and working to make it shine on the world stage after decades of being disregarded internationally. These young people are Africa's future as they seek their rightful place in the world and expect to prosper. First of all, congrats to all the Gen Z champions wherever they are around the world, whether you're black or white, so long as you're fighting for a cause and you're causing a difference or causing a change, I salute you all. I, as a millennial, am proud of the generation that is ahead of me, and I know they'll do better than the millennials and the baby boomers and the silent generation. And I'm sure even the ancestors will be very proud of the Gen Z. Yeah. The last sentence of the article says, all generations always find something to be proud of, but it seems that Generation Z is probably the best so far. Even if Tarwa, the one who wrote the article that I'm reading, as Azuma says so. I think that I don't want to say whether the Zuma is better than a millennial, because I am a millennial. I know what a millennial can do for this world in this era of the pandemic of COVID-19. So it's just matter of debate, matter of food for thought, matter of a conversation that can, you know, have from time to time and see which generation is better. And maybe in the coming episodes I'll be putting a debate, as my op-ed, is Gen Z better than Generation Alpha? Is Gen Z better than the millennials, or are the millennials better than the baby boomers or the silent generation? Something like that, so that you have something to talk about, something that will, give your food for thought, something that will you give a better perspective, a better insight into what this generation is all about, so that you don't be mocking them for their negativity. Yet you all know very well it's a two-edged sword, it's double-sided coin. You have to look at it from both sides and give a reasonable conclusion. Yeah, so that's it for the article from Tara Bulifi, a Tunisian freelancer who wrote an article for the New African magazine in 2021, in the summer of 2021. So that is where I got that op-ed from, and that's where I put my opinion editorial from that article. So that's it for this episode of the OpEdia podcast by Solomon Okuku Afua. Those are my full names. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for watching me from wherever you are around the world, in whatever time zone. I'm sure that this episode is worth talking about, even as the video ends, or even as the audio ends. So that's what I had to share. And as soon as this video is posted online, as soon as the audio is posted online, I'll make sure that through the social media pages of this podcast network, that I'll put all the links, all the pages, to be able to get them, and make sure that you say something about it, or even like it, share it with your loved ones, and even follow it, so that I can continue to give you more and more, and that let's grow the channel and let's move forward with it. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you for watching me wherever you are, and until the next episode, thank you and have a great